This is how you will set up your machine for Angular development. You will require three things: NodeJS, Visual Studio Code IDE, and Angular CLI. NodeJS can be downloaded and installed from this website. It is the official website of NodeJS. Similarly, Visual Studio Code IDE can be downloaded and installed using this website, which is the official website for Visual Studio Code. But for downloading Angular CLI, you will have to run this command or this command in your command line terminal like this. Also, both these commands start with npm. npm stands for Node Package Manager. It is similar to NuGet in .NET world or Mavin, EV, or nowadays Gradle in Java or Android world. So in order to have npm command executed, you need to first install npm, and there is no separate setup for it. As soon as you install NodeJS on your system, it automatically installs Node Package Manager, that is npm. I have mentioned all this in the video description. This is Amit Shirasao, and welcome to Aspire Crisp Tutorials, where we keep it short, simple, and to the point. To install Node.js, let's go to this link. Here you will see two buttons. The first button is for installing the stable version, also called as long-term support version or the LTS version of Node.js. Whereas this button is for the installation of the current or the cutting-edge version of Node.js. This is a version that the Node.js team is still working upon, and so even they are not sure whether it is stable or not. Whereas this version is relatively older, and so the Node.js team has gotten a chance to test and verify it. So they can very well guarantee that this version is stable version. So as you can see here, even the Node.js team recommends you to use the stable version. But still, as per your choice, you may download any one of these two versions. Now, no matter which button you click, the website will automatically determine your operating system. Like I'm using Windows 10 64-bit operating system. So no matter which button I click, a setup which is relevant for my operating system will automatically be chosen and then downloaded for me. To install Visual Studio Code IDE, head to this link. Here you will see multiple buttons. Now as I am a Windows user, I will just hit this button. It will automatically determine whether I am using Windows 7 or 8 or 10. It will also determine whether it is a 32-bit operating system or 64-bit operating system. And accordingly, it will download a proper setup which is suitable for my operating system. Now you might ask, if the website is capable of determining my operating system, then why give me so many buttons and so many links? Why not just give me one button and then automatically determine my operating system and accordingly download the proper setup for me? So here these many options are given by Microsoft because they want to give us one flexibility. Now what is that flexibility? Let us say I am a Windows user and I want to download the setup for Visual Studio Code for Mac. So this website enables you to do that. I can just hit this button. Or let's say I want to download the setup for Debian Linux for 32-bit. So I can just go and hit this link and it should download the setup for Debian Linux 32-bit. So this is the facility that Microsoft has given us. The setup is very straightforward, so I'm not including it over here. Just keep hitting the next key until you complete the installation. Now let's install Angular CLI. It can be done by running this command or this command in your command line terminal like this. But you might notice that both these commands start with npm keyword. npm stands for Node Package Manager, as I've already mentioned. Node Package Manager automatically gets installed when you install Node.js. So these two commands will not execute if you don't install Node.js first. Now let us study these commands. Here the command line terminal is being instructed to call Node Package Manager and then ask it to install globally this software. Here globally means install this software so that it can be accessible from any folder of your machine and not just from the folder in which you are running this command. For example, I'm running this particular command from this folder. So I want Angular CLI to be installed globally, which means Angular CLI should be accessible from any folder of my machine and not just from this particular folder. So this is how you install Angular CLI. Now let us take a moment to understand what is Angular CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Interface. So why did Angular team come up with a command line interface? The reason is Angular projects are normally very huge. They involve a lot of files. So generating these projects from scratch is not recommended. Although you can very well do this in the theory, in practice it is really difficult to set up an Angular project from scratch. And Angular team definitely doesn't recommend you to do so. Instead, Angular team recommends you to use Angular CLI, that is Angular Command Line Interface. So once you install Angular CLI using these commands, you will be able to use Angular CLI commands like ng, new, and your project name, let's say my proj. Okay, so this will generate an Angular project with name my proj. Now you first cd, that means change the directory, and go into this project. Inside the project you can again give an Angular CLI command like ng generate component and let's say my component. So this will generate a component by name my component. Similarly, you can generate a service by ng gs and my service. So in this way, you don't have to create files manually. You don't even have to adjust the position of the files or even name the files. Everything is taken care of by Angular CLI. For an extensive list of all the commands that you can give with Angular CLI, head to Angular.io, which is the official website of Angular, and then CLI. So this gives you a reference of all the CLI commands that you can give. For example, you can give build command for building your Angular project. Then you can give generate, as I've already shared with you. Then similarly, new or n is used for making an initial Angular application, as I've already showed to you. Then ngserve can be used for serving your application. So this was an introduction of Angular CLI.